So the challenge of today, especially in COVID time, is to turn your neighbors into friends. I think we know that locally. You've got to know often people in your street more than we did before. Being able to reach out to people who are local more than we did. And so all those here, all those guests in our room that are neighbors, I know Muswell Hill Synagogue community has worked very hard to make you into friends, to be friends with you, and to have developed friendships as well. And that's something I'm really incredibly proud with. Now, this is a very different civic event than usual. I think we've got more in the room than we sometimes do in the synagogue. We're doing something that keeps growing. And obviously, I'm really pleased that we have done it and that we still can come together as friends. What's different this year is you're going to hear less from me, actually. There's going to be a lot of other people that you will hear from. I know Anthony Sober, you're happy. Thank you, Anthony. I'm going to guide through the next hour. We're going to have speakers, messages, music, and it will center around the Havdallah ceremony, which I'll talk about in a little. But I'd like to hand over first to Karen Ackerman. Karen is our chair, has been for a number of years now, and is incredibly positively and inspirationally guiding our community forward together with the executive, myself, and the council. So I'd like to hand over now to Karen. I will spotlight you, Karen, so we can all see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Your Worshipful the Mayor, Councillor Adam Jogee, Deputy Lieutenant Captain Peter Baker, Deputy Mayor of London, Joanne McCartney, Member of Parliament for Hornsey and Wood Green, Catherine West, Leader of Haringey Council, Joe Edgeofor, Chief Executive of Haringey Council, Zena Etheridge, President of the Board of Deputies, Mary Van der Zeel, President of the United Synagogue, Michael Goldstein, friends, members, and everybody. The Muswell Hill Synagogue Civic Service has been a highlight of our calendar for many years, and there was no way a global pandemic was going to stop us this year. We may not be in our synagogue, and very sadly, we won't be able to share with you the usual delicious Kiddush food after the service, but we still extend the same warm Muswell Hill welcome to all of you. And can I also wish everybody a very happy Diwali. We have a wonderful programme today. Thanks once again to Irene Mansfield, who's worked so hard to put this event together for the past 10 years or so with the support and guidance of Rabbi David. This year, I'm sure it was a huge relief to her not to have to spend many hours arranging a seating plan and agonising over who would sit with who. And as she has secretly had words with Zoom to work out which square appears where on our screens, to ensure each of our guests has a Muswell Hill Synagogue buddy in the next square to look after them. This event expresses perfectly the ethos of our community, to look outward to the wider community and to be a positive part of that community. We do that in various ways, through the winter shelter that we've run for the past 2 years in partnership with the Haringey charity, All People, All Places, along with local churches across the borough, through our support for the Muswell Hill Food Bank and the Soup Kitchen in Dukes Avenue, and through our annual food collections outside Sainsbury's in Muswell Hill for Mitzvah Day. Over lockdown, we also increased those connections. We arranged to weekly collect and deliver much needed food to the charity Caris in Haringey, which supports homeless families. And we've developed a close relationship with them now, making them one of the charities we've chosen to support through our annual appeal at our festival of Yom Kippur. We also play a wider part in our community in other ways. Rabbi David leads from the front with his work as the chair of the Haringey Multi-Faith Network. And I know he has close relationships with colleagues from across the borough. I've also been honoured to join Rabbi David to represent our community at the annual Remembrance Ceremony in Wood Green, which of course sadly couldn't happen this year in quite the same public way. We're proud to be a part of the Haringey community and to contribute to that community. Today, we're lucky to welcome Catherine West, MP for Hornsey and Wood Green, who has joined us for these services over many years. David Lammy, MP for Tottenham, has sent his apologies, but he's also sent a recorded message, which we'll share later. Welcome also to your Worshipful the Mayor, Councillor Adam Jogee. A pleasure as ever to see you here. And we're also welcoming the Chief Executive of Haringey Council, Zena Etheridge, as well as many of our other friends from across our Haringey family and our synagogue family. Our keynote speaker today will be Stephen Bush. Stephen is political editor of The New Statesman. He's also taken on the role of chair of the Board of Deputies Commission into Racial Inclusivity in the Jewish Community. Stephen, your thoughts in The New Statesman articles in support of the Jewish community and what you describe as the story of a forgotten people have been a welcome voice in what has been a difficult few years for our community. And I look forward to seeing the results of your work with the Board of Deputies and ensuring that we look hard at our own community and our own attitudes to inclusivity and diversity, areas in which I'm sure we all have much to learn. Today, we're here to celebrate our diversity, and it seems fitting to make reference to the much missed Rabbi Lord Sachs, who was a champion for interfaith relationships and a better understanding of diversity. I couldn't begin to be able to match his eloquence and oratory skills, so I would like to end with his words from his book, The Dignity of Difference. If we were all the same, we would have nothing unique to contribute, nor anything to learn from others. The more diverse we are, the richer our culture becomes, and the more expansive our horizons of possibility. But that depends on our willingness to bring our differences as gifts to the common good. It requires integration rather than segregation, and that in turn means that we must have a rich and compelling sense of the common good. Without it, we will find that difference spells discord and creates not music, but noise. I celebrate all of our differences as gifts to the common good and the music we create together. And this evening, we're going to look forward to some beautiful music from Shir and a chance to celebrate all of our horizons of possibility as a community together in Haringey. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Karen, so much for that really beautiful welcome. Really, really appreciated by me, I'm sure, by everyone here. So thank you for that. So now what we're going to do, we usually have the deputy leader of the council give a message from the mayor, because it's really hard to expect the Mayor of London to come to Muswell Hill's ceremony, and we really appreciate the Mayor of London, Sadiq Kahn's connection to us and appreciation. So this year we're really pleased that the Mayor of London, Sadiq Kahn, has put together a small message for us. If Joanne's in the room, it's great to have you here, because I know, Joanne, you are such a good supporter of our community and a good friend of ours. And so let's hear now a short message from the Mayor of London, if I can work, of course, the technology. So I'll share the screen. And hopefully you should see that. Karen, do you see that, Karen? Good. So I'll play it right now.
I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person, but I'm delighted to join you virtually for my first ever Muswell Hill Synagogue Zoom Civic Event. As Mayor, I've always been clear about how inspired I am every day by the enormous contribution that London's Jewish community makes in our city, helping make London the greatest city in the world. I know I can speak for millions of Londoners when I say that London wouldn't be London on so many levels without our proud Jewish community. For Londoners, COVID has cast a spotlight on the fragility of our society and has shown that we can't afford to return to business as usual. We need to extend a helping hand to all Londoners. I've been inspired by the compassion and charity that the Jewish community have shown across our city in responding to this crisis. So have a great event, and on behalf of all Londoners, thank you.
So, of course, we thank the Mayor for that lovely message from him, and it's really good to have his recognition for the work that obviously we do, but also that the Jewish communities do across London. So that's our introductions. And now what we're going to do is a small service called the Havdallah. Now, Havdallah means separation. Let me make sure everyone's muted. Is that Ivor there? I'll mute you for the minute, Ivor. So that's Havdallah is called separation. And the idea is that because the Sabbath day is a holy day, right? It's a day of rest, a special day. We separate between the day itself and the rest of the week. There's almost a sense of sadness moving out of the sort of oasis of the Sabbath day, not thinking about the travails of the world or the difficulties or what goes on, but actually to create an oasis in the week where you can, in a sense, rest from the world. And that's the Shabbat, that's the Sabbath. And so to end that, we run Havdallah, which is based on three things: on a cup of grape juice or wine, which I've got here, on some spices, which you can smell in a pot, or as we made 2 years ago, my wife made, we have little pouches here. Sorry that I can't get them to you through the computer, with nice smelling spices. And, thank you, Amalia, we have a Havdallah candle, which is a multi-wicked candle, which lights the light that begins the rest of the week. And so that's how we begin and end, really. We begin with candles, with light, and we end with candles. We wrap around Sabbath with light. And I suppose the idea is to take some of that light into the week. And boy, do we need light in our world. We really do. And so we're going to light that. Now, I'm going to take myself off spotlight because there might be, if I put on gallery view, there might be others here who are going to light their Havdallah candles. And so if you see another candle or two or three or more around, that's because people are going to light them. We've got musical accompaniment from Shir. So you can unmute yourself, Ivor. I'll unmute you. I've done it now, Ivor. And all of you, if you've got a candle, light the candle now. My daughter's going to hold it. She loves to hold it. And we're going to move over to, oh, I just blew it out. Over to Ivor to start. There you are, blew the candle. Over to Ivor to start the music.
הנה אל ישועתי, אפתח ולא אבחר, כי עזי בזמרת יד אדוני, ויהי לי לישועה, ושבתם מים וששון. ממעייני הישועה, לאדוני הישועה על עמך, ברכתך סלע, אדוני צבאות עמנו, משגב לנו אלוהי יעקב סלע. אדוני צבאות אשרי אדם, בטח בך אדוני הושיע, המלך יעננו ביום קורנו, ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה, וששון ויקר כן תהיה לנו, כוס ישועות אשא בשם אדוני אקרא. La 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 la
Follow the tune. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Lai 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 borei beri agafen.
La 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 la
To make ourselves feel better for losing Sabbath, we bless the spices. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu We bless the fire. Again, this is the first fire on the beginning of the week after Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu haolam. Lai, 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 lai. Borei ve'orei ha'ei.
La 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 la
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil bein kodesh lechol bein or lechol. We have a drummer here as well. Bein Yisrael ha'amim bein yomim Sheishet yamei hamachet baruch atah Adonai hamavdil bein kodesh lechol. La 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 Custom then we have is to actually light 2 candles. Just as we entered with 2 candles, we actually light 2 little candles and keep them lit at the end of Shabbat. I should mention actually now, of course, there are many festivals who have light with them, and Diwali is actually tonight. And I know Councillor Kaushika Amin can't be here because she's celebrating Diwali. What we do is we actually put the light out with some of the grape juice or wine that we drank. And that's the end of our Havdallah. And I hope you enjoyed that. That was really beautiful. And of course, thank you to Ivor and Shir. We're going to come back to you, of course, in a bit. Thank you, Ivor. So we're now over to our keynote speaker. Really, of course, introduced already by Karen before, but it's a real pleasure. Someone who I've been following a lot over the last few years, both by reading the New Statesman, by reading the media, and of course your work with the BOD, the Board of Deputies, is so important at the moment to a community that is a community of compassion and a community that ensures it has compassion for all within and for those, of course, without as well. So without further ado, it really, really gives me great pleasure and appreciation, Stephen, that you've taken your time to talk to us this evening. Thank you to you, Stephen, and over to you. I will spotlight you now. Just everyone as well, if you want to write a message on the chat, feel free. We will keep the messages after when we keep the recording. So please do write a message, as some already have. Stephen Bush, thank you.
Thank you very much for those very kind instructions and for having me here today. Although one of my close relatives was teasing me for the fact. I said, I'm going to this event, and they said, oh, when so in Muswell Hill, and they said, oh, well, you're really using the ability of Zoom to go anywhere, to go a whole borough further north. But thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful to be here, or rather to still be in Hackney, but to be here. as you said in that very kind introduction, Rabbi, I'm in addition to my day job at the New Statesman, I'm spending most of my evenings and weekends chairing the board's commission into racial inclusivity within our community. Now, the origin of the commission was then, of course, during the first lockdown, the shocking killing of George Floyd provoked, I think, outrage and expressions of solidarity across the world. Including from our own board of deputies, and various members of the community said, well, it's wonderful that we are looking out, but we should also be looking within. And so Marie van der Ziel and the rest of the leadership of the board created this commission and asked me to chair it. And a kind of astonishingly prophetic thing to do. We really are, as we have so much of the time, being a light unto the nations in doing this. We are the first diaspora community ever to do an event like to do a commission of this kind, as far as we're aware, and the first religious grouping in the United Kingdom to do something like it either. So they were very prophetic and far-sighted in setting it up, even though perhaps slightly less prophetic and far-sighted in appointing me to do it. Of course, that bit may turn out to be a disaster, but the value of what we're doing, in addition to its value, I hope, within our community, will, I hope, be in being a light unto the nations. We had to sort of build the plane as we flew it because there was no real precedent for an exercise of this type. But yeah, it's been very it's been a process of huge learning and discovery for me. It was particularly touching. One of the things that I've done as a result of this is I have finally read my copy of Zion in Africa, which details, among other things, the history of the founding of the synagogue there, which my grandfather helped to set up. Although I think, to be honest, the main reason why my grandfather fell in love with Zambia is the only place where you can observe Jewish mean time and be early. But in many ways, the Commission is doing something we've always done. Which is we've always demonstrated the myth that when we come here, as my great grandfather did from Lithuania, and as many people who will have very similar stories and trajectories, then we were a nation apart, then the only way for ethnic and cultural minorities to integrate is to give something of themselves up. But we have shown over the centuries that there is no contradiction between being a proud Jew, between having, yes, as I and I'm sure many people on this call have, a strong affection and affinity for the nation of Israel, but ultimately also a proud British identity. But we have added something to this country, but we have not lost something. We have not given up anything of ourselves. But we have made this, we are part of what makes this the best city in the world, and we are part of this country's strength and its greatness. And our community is, as in addition to our important charitable works, next to that is a long-standing repudiation and rebuke to the idea, to the myths of hatred and division. And now we're once again being called to model something with this commission, which is a terrifying undertaking for me. The commission, because I imagine many of you will not have heard exactly what it's doing, we've taken oral and written evidence, about 250 bits of written and oral evidence, and then countless more from family, friends, cousins who've popped out of the woodwork, about their experiences within the community, really spreading across three sort of strands of experience. People who are of mixed heritage, like myself, who tend to have a very strong ethnic and cultural sense of themselves as Jewish. People who are converts, who of course have a very strong religious and theological sense of themselves, which is something which I found very inspiring and well, it further adds to my guilt about being a bad Jew, but it's been sort of very interesting. And then people within one of the other diaspora communities that have come to reside in the United Kingdom more recently, whether they are part of the Ethiopian or the Jamaican diaspora. And I mean, in many ways, I think, your community, Rabbi David, has modeled in very much some of the things that I'm hoping to be able to take forward in the report. of being, a famously welcoming space, a space where people feel included and valued. And that is really the essence of the mission of racial inclusivity and of the Commission, and of something that I think that we can continue to model and demonstrate to the wider world. That's sort of my hope with the Commission, and my hope of then that will be what we can achieve with it as it comes out and reports over the next year. But yes, thank you very much for having me today, and thank you very much for for everything that you do. And thank you so much for having me to speak. Because I really think that the work that I am doing at the moment really could not exist and work without. I have taken an undertaking not to explicitly discuss or reveal any of the things I have had in evidence, but the sense of without the existence of welcoming and inclusive spaces within our community, there would be very little that I could recommend at a wider level. So, and that so much of that is because of your leadership, Rabbi David. So thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak, and thank you all of you for letting me ramble on.
Stephen, thank you. Really inspiring. I think we clearly feel we have to have you back again at some point to go over in the detail you're able to, of course, the nature of the Commission, and also as you've done, connect that to our role and responsibility as Jewish people. But that's wonderful, really. So thank you, and please do stay with us if you can. It'd be lovely to have you with us. So thank you so much. And actually, with that, we're going to go back to some music because, of course, one of the themes here that's important is shalom, is peace. And peace, actually, everyone, comes from the Hebrew word, shalom, which is shalem. And shalem means complete. And so, peace isn't something that is only on my terms. Peace needs the completion of other people. You can't be complete without the other. And it does sound very simple, but it's so important today in political discourse, actually, and in communal and societal discourse. It's almost like, in some ways, I feel that we've lost the ability to disagree. We've lost the ability to debate and be different, and see something in the other which is real and relevant to them. And so shalom, peace, isn't something that is a given. We say in Ethics of the Fathers, to be of the pupils of Aaron, the brother of Moses in the Bible, you need to be rodef shalom. You need to pursue peace. It just doesn't happen. It's something you need to actually really go after. And so with that, I'm really pleased that Ivor and Morris, I think as well, from Shir. Shir is almost like our in-house band, everyone. They're not obviously Muswell Hills. We don't own them, but they've done so many happy occasions at our synagogue. Plus lots of other things as well. They're just lovely people. They really are amazing people. And so Ivor, over to you to firstly do Shir La Shalom. And I think if I remember, Shir La Shalom was sung at the last occasion of the Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin's life. What was called then the Square of the Kings of Israel, which became named as Rabin Square in Tel Aviv, and became very much associated with him, what he stood for in trying to bring peace between Israel and Israel's Palestinian neighbors and Arab neighbors, of course, and what would happen if extremism was allowed to flourish unchecked, I suppose, within. And so over to you quickly for Shir La Shalom, Ivor and Morris.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, very loud and clear.
Good. I'll just read you the English of part of this song. Lift your eyes with hope, not through the rifle's sights. Sing a song for love and not for wars. This is Shir La Shalom. The music's by Yair Rosenblum and the lyrics are by Yaakov Rotblit.
לשמש לעלות, לבוקר להאיר,
חזקה שבתפילות אותנו לא תחזיר, מי אשר קבע נרו ומעפר נטמן, בחימה לא יעבירו, לא יחזירו לכאן. איש אותנו לא ישיב מבור תחתית אפל, כאן לא יועילו לו שמחת הניצחון ולא שירי הלל. לכן רק שירו שיר השלום, אל תלחשו תפילה. לכן רק שירו שיר השלום בצעקה גדולה. תנו לשמש לחדור מבעד לפרחים, אל תביטו לאחור, הניחו להולכים. שאו עיניים בתקווה, לא דרך כוונות, שירו שיר לאהבה ולא למלחמות. אל תגידו יום יבוא, הביאו את היום, כי לא חלום הוא בכל הכיכרות, הריעו רק שלום. לכן רק שירו שיר השלום, אל תלחשו תפילה. לכן רק שירו שיר השלום בצבע גדולה. היי די די די, היי די די די, היי די די די.
Beautiful, really beautiful, both of you. You can all clap if you want, that's lovely. And with the sadness in the heart as well, remembering those days of pain at Rabin's passing and murder. Really, thank you. So we now move to Shalom again. Oseh Shalom bimromav. Right, may God, who brings high, from on high peace, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, may he bring peace to us. And you know, this prayer of peace is how every Jewish prayer ends. Whether we bless after meals, whether we pray our core standing prayer in the middle of our service, we end with these words, Oseh Shalom. A mourner who says special prayer called a Kaddish, many times in the 11 months after a close relative passes, will end that prayer of mourning with the prayer of Shalom, Oseh Shalom bimromav. A tune made for Rabbi Sachs when he sung for Rabbi Sachs. It's very moving.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, יעשה שלום, שלום אל עלינו ועל כל ישראל, אל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו, והכל ישראל, והכל ישראל, ואמרו, ואמרו,
There's a sigh when you hear that. My daughter and actually Joe's son were in a very, very large choir of hundreds of Jewish children in 2013 who sang that at the Barbican as Rabbi Sachs stopped, of course, his term as chief rabbi or retired from being chief rabbi. And so, yeah, there's a sadness in our hearts at the moment at his passing. But it's great to have you. Some lovely messages here from Louise Rendell, the Quakers group in the Quakers of Muswell Hill, from the Holy Trinity in Tottenham, from Evelyn Davis. It's lovely to have Evelyn Davis, who's the head teacher at Coldford Primary School. So nice you're with us. So really, really lovely. And the third and last of our songs is One of the Future. So in a sense, we talked about peace as a value, but we want more of it. And especially, we want, of course, peace in Israel, and we want peace between Israel and its Palestinian citizens and neighbors. The fact that both Jews and Palestinians in Arab all feel that they have autonomy and statehood and independence and self-definition in that area. And so, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Shalom Salam, right? Salam, of course, and Shalom is very similar. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. May peace again or more come upon us.
And I know that a lot of you on here tonight know this song very, very well, and even probably know the dance moves. So it'd be great to hear you singing along, even though I can't hear you, but sing loud and dance if you want to. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam.
A massive, massive clap, a muted clap nevertheless for Shir. That is, of course, 2/5, I think, I can't remember, of Shir, Ivor and Morris, and they are just wonderful. true friends of our community. We love you both, and you really made it today. So thank you so much. Big clap, everyone.
Thank you.
Woo! All right. So we have a few more messages before we finish. We said by 6:30 we would, and I believe we will still, which is great. But of course, it's lovely still to be with you all. There's some great messages here. Lovely. Well, Caridwin, lovely to see you. Margaret Shepherd and Joe, of course, the head of Eden School. Great to hear you here with us. And of course, what a lovely school you have grown over the last decade as well. So we're going to hear, of course, from our members of parliament. We have two members of parliament in Catherine West, of course, and David Lammy, both friends of our community who've supported our community over the last number of years. And first, we have a message. David Lammy sadly cannot be with us, but he did record a message, and I hope I can share that with you. So I will just share my screen, and hopefully.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I'm not able to be with you today for this fantastic civic occasion, but I wanted to send my love, my solidarity, and my support to friends of Muslim.
Rabbi, you need to unmute.
Unmute yourself, Rabbi David.
Have done. Sorry. I'll start that again, everyone.
I'm so sorry that I'm not
Is that good now?
able to be with you today for this fantastic civic occasion, but I wanted to send my love, my solidarity, and my support to friends of Muswell Hill Synagogue. I'm reminded of the words of Martin Luther King, that our unity is born of our common struggle. It's a struggle to make sure that all of us, whatever our background, have dignity, have rights, and can come together in common humanity. We saw just a few weeks ago those horrible scenes in Vienna where people were murdered and killed just outside the synagogue. And we see also, not that long ago in Pittsburgh, what anti-Semitism can drive. And so it's hugely important that we in the London Borough of Haringey, for many, many years and many, many decades, can come together, people of faith and of no faith, in total solidarity, understanding one another and communicating to our wider population that we stand together. My politics comes from a place where I remember a shared history, the history of my ancestors who were enslaved, but the history of many, many, many Jewish men, women and children, not just in the Holocaust, but for years and centuries before, where people have been oppressed. It's that brought the Jewish and the Black community together to stand with Martin Luther King and others to fight for civil rights in America, and also in South Africa, where Jewish brothers and sisters stood alongside Mandela and Steve Biko and others fighting against apartheid. And that runs through me. And it's why, just let me say, in light of the Equality and Human Rights Commission's work on the horrible anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, that I have always stood in solidarity. And it is wrong to say anything negative about the work of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, because when you do that, you undermine an important bulwark that exists for minority communities in this country. Remembering that the Jewish population in Britain is under 0.5% of the country, and the Black population in this country is just 4%. We are minority communities, and we stand in solidarity together in these tough and challenging times. But this is a hopeful moment. It's a hopeful moment for us here in Haringey, of course, and I'm aware that we come together in light of what has happened in the United States, which I think is a ray of sunshine in what has been a very, very, very tough and challenging year. And I remember too, brothers and sisters who've lost their lives due to COVID-19. So all my love, solidarity and support to you this year.
Lovely. So that was a message from our MP, David Lammy, MP of Tottenham. Really lovely to hear, David, and a really lovely message. And now, Catherine, also a friend of our community, over to you here live, of course, to say a few words to us as well. Can you?
Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you, Rabbi David, and I hope people can hear well. Can you hear, Rabbi David?
Yeah, we can hear. I'm going to spotlight
Lovely.
you when I find you as well. So
Good.
if you start, I will find you and I will then spotlight you now.
Well, thank you to the Muswell Hill Shul for this civic service, for the warm welcome from Karen Ackerman and to Rabbi David Mason and to Irene Mansfield, who's been working on these civic services for many years, and to all the others who have helped organise this evening. I really enjoyed Stephen Bush's contribution and I look forward to reading the findings of the Commission in the coming months. Tonight provides an opportunity to celebrate those who quietly do good amongst us, including our faith leaders, volunteers, and all the Haringey staff members who've been at the forefront of caring for the sick and vulnerable since the beginning of COVID-19 and when it really hit us back in. My pledge today is for the renewed hope in hard times, for a renewed commitment to each other. And my thought for the day is forgiveness. In the last month, a mirror has been held up to the Labour Party regarding the way anti-Semitism has been handled in Labour. And sadly, Labour has been found wanting. The hurt felt by Jewish people cannot be underestimated or minimised. And each one of us, elected member or rank and file Labour member, must understand and respond. As community leaders assembled today, I hope for bridge building with the Jewish community to pursue peace. As Rabbi David said earlier, peace doesn't just happen, we have to build it. And we will pursue it in the coming months and years, an exercise which cannot be expected to happen overnight, but which I enter into wholeheartedly and in good faith. I'd like to offer my condolences to the committee, to the community here in Muswell Hill and beyond for the loss of Lord Sachs. As a spiritual and political leader, I know he'll be missed in Westminster, particularly in the upper house, but also amongst many around the family dinner table in our community of Hornsey and Wood Green. In the coming 12 months, I hope for our combined faith and strength to care for the health of our community, for all who are bereaved, to heal the wounds of hurt and commit ourselves to serve in what is likely to become a time of extreme financial hardship for many in Haringey. Thank you for coming together this evening. Thank you for hosting this important annual event. And thank you for the special way in which you bring us together, Rabbi David. And we do live in hope, and we live in the hope of peace and forgiveness.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Catherine. Amen, I would say to that. Really, really appreciate those words. And you also mentioned the sadnesses that we had, the bereavement, of course, we had. It's just actually looking at a comment, a bereavement that happened more a year or so ago or more, was mentioned by Bibi, of course. Bibi Khan, a really good friend, of course, of mine for the last 13 years in the Whiteman Road Mosque, lost her father, who would have been 90 today. I think it's really worth mentioning because Mr. Ali, Bibi, your father, was someone of shalom, of salam, who believed in bringing people together, and he succeeded in his life in doing that. So thank you so much, Catherine. And I hope you can hear me. at the moment because I'm losing some of you. Joe, can you hear me okay? Good. Okay, lovely. So that was a message from, of course, our MPs, David, and from Catherine. Now, I don't know if Zena Etheridge is in our Zoom room. Zena, are you here? Zena is the Chief Executive of Haringey Council and wanted to say for a minute or two a message from the council. If Zena's here, I don't know if you are Zena, that would be great. Of course, if you're not, that's fine too. Let me see if I've got a gallery view. The council do great work. The council really does, and is stretched and has been for a number of years because of course, a lot of the cuts. I know when I work as the chair of the Multi-Faith Network with the council, they are so supportive of the work we do and the priorities that we put out. And so I owe a lot of thanks to those that work in council. We just had a meeting this week of Jewish leaders of Haringey with the health head in Haringey, the public health lead in Haringey, to talk about COVID, the lockdown and its effect. So I do offer a great thanks to the Haringey Council. I'm sorry that Zena's not here, unless Zena can't be unmuted. Ooh. Someone is definitely unmuted. Unmute again. There we are. Okay, so what we're going to do is move on then to the conclusion. Your messages have been wonderful. I can see there Brian Simpson there, who from the Muswell Methodist Church. I know Reverend Matt Lunn is here. We have another councillors here. Matt has been a great friend of the last few years. We have great coffees together and look forward to them again, Matt, talking about Wesley and about the holiness of the social and all sorts of interesting ideas. So we're now going to move on from the messages. Of course, also, we are remembering those that have fallen in the wars, in the wars that Great Britain has fought in. It's something we've been doing over the last week. Of course, Remembrance Sunday was last week. I'm really pleased that we have with us the Deputy Lieutenant Captain Peter Baker, who is a good friend of our community, who is someone I've loved getting to know and always has real support and ideas for our faith network as well. So Captain Peter Baker is going to read for us the exhortation, and we'll follow that by a last post, which will be an online last post, I should add, not one that I will be blowing, but let's do that now. So over to you, Captain Peter Baker.
Thank you, Rabbi David. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Right, I need to get the share right here. let's now have a minute's silence for those that fell in our wars. Okay, so now it's going to be a great pleasure to invite our mayor, the mayor of Haringey, Councillor Adam Jogee, someone who I've got to know really well over the last few years as well, who will say a few words as well. Will speak to us in a minute or two, but first, for the mayor to say for us the prayer for the royal family. Over to you. Now, I want to spotlight you, Councillor Jogee, so I'm going to try and find you.
Hello.
I know this.
You hear me?
What you can do, yeah, no, definitely can hear you. Why
Oh, good.
Spotlight you, or if you'd like to see Councillor Jogee a bit larger on your screen, then you can put speaker view instead of gallery view. So at the top right, you've got view. You can change that to speaker view, and that saves me. Oh, there we are. I found you anyway. I will spotlight you.
I suspect people don't want to see me very big, Rabbi, but thank you.
I want to say that. That's brilliant. Over to you. Great to see you. Really.
Thank you. He who gives salvation to kings and dominion, to princes whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. May he bless our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth, Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Charles, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. May the Supreme King of Kings, in his mercy, preserve the Queen in life, guard her and deliver her from all trouble and sorrow. May he put a spirit of wisdom and understanding into her heart and into the hearts of all her counsellors, that they may uphold the peace of the realm, advance the welfare of the nation, and deal kindly and justly with all the house of Israel. In her days and in ours, may our Heavenly Father spread the tabernacle of peace above all the dwellers on earth, and may the Redeemer come to Zion, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Jogee. Thank you, Mayor. Really, really appreciate that. And we're going to ask now our Muswell Executive Member, Helen Style. Helen is our Women's Officer, which is actually a position created recently through a project of the Chief Rabbi, which is part of the executive of our community, which within our community ensures that we consider the role of women in ritual and in what we do. It's always complicated in an Orthodox tradition, in a conservative traditional world, to ensure inclusion, and that's something we really try very hard to do. So Helen does amazing work in our community. With that, over to you, Helen.
May he who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, bless the state of Israel, its leaders and advisors in the land which he swore unto our fathers to give us. Put into their hearts the love and fear of you, to uphold it with justice and righteousness. And may we be worthy in our days to witness the fulfillment of the words of your servants, the prophets. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Heavenly Father, remember the Israel Defence Forces, guardians of our holy land. Protect them from all distress and anguish, and send blessing and success to all the work of their hands. Grant peace in your holy land and everlasting happiness to all its inhabitants, so that Jacob shall again have peace and tranquility, with none to make him afraid. Spread the tabernacle of your peace over all the dwellers on earth. May this be your will, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Helen. So before we end, I'm going to turn back now to our Mayor, Councillor Adam Jogee. We'll have some thoughts from Councillor Jogee, then concluding thanks from Irene Mansfield, and then we will finish with music with the song Adon Olam, which we use to end our Sabbath morning services as well. So Councillor Jogee, over to you. And again, it's so nice to have you. You do so much for cohesion in this community. For you, cohesion and diversity, working together is so much high on your priority, and was as a member of council and continues as the mayor. I know, knowing you will continue well after this year as well. So really great to have you.
That's very kind, Rabbi, and thank you very much. Captain Peter Baker, Catherine West, colleagues across the council from both parties representing wards right across the borough, including the ward councillors, President of the Board of Deputies, President of the United Synagogue, members of the congregation, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. You have to bear with me. This is the first time I've sat in my house with a tie on with the mayoral chain on and giving a speech into Zoom, so I shall do my best. Tonight I join you from my home here in Hornsey, and it's a real privilege to be able to do so. That said, I so very much wish, and I suspect we all do, that we were able to be together in person, talking, listening, and learning. The latter two, both seriously underrated qualities in political life. But what a wonderful evening of prayer, of peace, of music, and of all of your smiles. It's been a real delight to be with you all tonight. And the wide range of people and communities here, Rabbi Mason, speaks for itself, and I join you in the tribute to the late Brother Ali, who was, as you noted, such a wonderful man. I bring also apologies from the Mayoress, my girlfriend Alison, who has just left the house as the service began. She's an ICU nurse at the Whittington Hospital, so has a long night ahead, but did want to be with us and wanted me to make sure that I noted her apologies. I also want to say, Rabbi, that I extend my condolences to the community, to the family and the friends of the late Rabbi Lord Sachs. He leaves an extraordinary legacy of wisdom, of interfaith cooperation, and of service to others, and may his memory be a blessing. This is the 7th year I've been an elected member of Haringey Council, and this is the 7th year I've had the pleasure of attending the annual civic service at Muswell Hill Synagogue. I've left every one of the last 6 civic ceremonies walking a little taller and knowing a little more about how we can together make our community and our world a better place. Now tonight I join you, as Rabbi Mason noted, as mayor, the first Muslim mayor elected in Haringey's history, the first black mayor this decade, and I come with a message of thanks, solidarity and appreciation. Now every one of you listening tonight will know that these are challenging times for all of our people. The coronavirus and its impact has changed life as we know it forever. The fact we're on this Zoom call tonight makes that point better than I can. And as mayor, I want to send my prayers and good wishes and condolences to the families and friends of all those Haringey residents who've died as a result of the coronavirus, and particularly those to the Jewish community across our borough. It's never easy to lose a loved one, but in these circumstances, it's especially difficult. And I want you all to know that we stand with you. That concept of standing with others and of not walking by on the other side is something I spoke about in my acceptance speech when I became mayor 6 weeks ago. We can never ignore the call to help. We must never close our eyes to injustice or block our ears to racism. And we must fight every day to make our community a better and more inclusive place. Like so many others, I've been hugely inspired by the way the Jewish community here in Haringey, in all its guises, has rallied around to ensure that those in need get the support and assistance they need and deserve. Haringey, as you'll all know, is a diverse, multicultural, inclusive and vibrant community, one I've lived in my entire life. And I'm proud of the many distinct communities that call this part of London home. And I thank them all for the contribution they make every single day. But for all that's good though, there is so much more we need to do. And I know that there has been indefensible and unacceptable hurt right across the Jewish community about the lack of seriousness and urgency in the fight against anti-Semitism. I can say nothing more as a mayor, but also as a ward councillor and a human being, that I'm an ally on the front line in the fight against anti-Semitism, and I will be every day. That fight needs to be won, and won now, but so too do all the other forms of racism and bigotry that exist in our country. Even as a councillor, I've been called Jihadi Jogee, and another thought it fit to call me a monkey, both by people who should have known better and who still to this day have failed to apologise. I'll never forget being told that I was lowering the tone when I called out the fact that no black people had been elected to a particular committee, or when I was told to be happy about the lack of black men elected to my party's NEC because someone of Bangladeshi heritage had been, as if all minorities are the same. Now, I mention this not because there's a hierarchy of abuse or racism, but because all minority communities need to work together to fight the haters and the bigots. My community needs the solidarity of Jews here and across the country, and Jews here and across the country need my unquestioned support and solidarity too. Our religious communities and faith groups have worked so hard in recent months together to make life better and easier for residents across the borough. And I thank Rabbi Mason for his leadership of this synagogue, his leadership in the community, and his unique ability to bring people together. My thanks also to the wonderful Joe who I see there, to Irene Manfield and to Karen for their hard work, their contribution, and their commitments too. Now, I was elected in 2014, in the middle of my finals at university, and quickly realized that when it comes to speech giving, less is more, and I've certainly realized that over the last few weeks I've been mayor. And it's a rule of thumb that I try to follow. So I'll simply say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you for what you do and will do in the coming months and years to make Haringey a great place to live, learn, and work.
That was lovely. Councillor Adam, that was really, really great. The only worry I had was that you were about to say, let's make Haringey great again. No, that was superb. That really, really was superb. And I think on the one hand, you give us hope. I think one of the messages I've seen a lot in the chat has been the hope that we have about bringing people together like tonight. But you bring us that hope, but you also make us realize that there's a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of work to do. We aren't in the 70s and 80s anymore. We're in the 20s, where often racism hides behind hides behind facades, and we think, well, those people aren't, they aren't, no, whatever. There's a lot of work to do, and we're here to do that with you, and I certainly want to work with you as well. So thank you again for that. I'm going to call on Irene now, Mansfield, to give concluding thanks before we turn to Shir for our final little music. Then I'll, of course, unmute Ivor and Morris when we get to that. So Irene, if you can unmute yourself, it'd be lovely to. And Irene and Joe have done so much work. Joe Cowan, that is our administrator, and Irene, it's a passion for them every year. As Karen rightly said, that we didn't have to sit everyone together. As I think Joanne McCartney said, the Deputy Mayor of London, it's not the same as when we're together in the synagogue. That's absolutely right, but it's been great nevertheless. So Irene, are you unmuted?
Yes.
Brilliant. Over to you.
Friends, well, that was certainly different from our usual annual civic service. As we couldn't hold it in synagogue this year due to the unprecedented, as Jewish comedian Modi Rosenfeld calls it, they say that necessity is the mother of invention, so we invented. I do hope you all enjoyed it and join me in thanking everyone, the speakers, particularly our keynote speaker, Stephen Bush, the lovely music from Shir, who are going to end our event with Adon Olam, or as my Ashkenazi family would have called it, Adon Olam, with which we can all join in at home. The heartfelt message from our London Mayor, Sadiq Kahn, a chance to connect with our civic friends, Haringey's MPs, Haringey's Mayor, Adam Jogee, who doesn't look any older now than he did when I first knew him as an eager young activist, and Chief Executive Dinah Etheridge. Moving reminders of Remembrance Day and the debts we owe to those who fought to keep our country free, by Peter Baker, Deputy Lieutenant of Haringey. The prayers for the state of Israel, which we hold so dear in our hearts, and for the Queen. Our thanks also to the many civic and faith representatives who have joined us on Zoom. Lastly, a huge thank you to the man who has worked so hard since coming to our shul, but most especially since COVID changed our way of life so drastically, Rabbi Mason, known to most as Rabbi David. He has inspired and kept us together as a community, even when, as now, we can't be together in the synagogue building. We all hope that when the time comes for another big event in our shul calendar, we'll be able to celebrate in our building as before. But for now, Many thanks to everyone for joining this event, and Shavua Tov. Have a good week.
Beautiful, Irene. Really beautiful. Thank you for that. And over to our great musicians, Ivor and Morris. You can unmute yourselves, guys, or I have to find you.
Okay, done.
Done.
There you are. And
Can I just say on behalf of Shir how wonderful it is to see all our friends and, in my case, relatives here this evening. We've missed you all. Believe me, we've missed you. And it's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.
is Morris unmuted as well?
I am, yes. Can you hear me?
Super.
Okay, so this is the San Francisco Odan Olam. So with your mics off, you can all join in with great pleasure. So here we are with a Adon Olam Asher Malach Le'asa Azai Melech Shemo Adon
Unmute yourself, Matt Morris. Unmute yourself.
Da, la, la, da, 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 da,
We
da.
can keep it just you two, otherwise we won't hear you.
Okay.
Just you two. Everyone sing at home on your own if you can. But if we unmute, we won't hear the most important people here. So 1, 2, 3, Adon Olam.
Okay.
That was very funny.
Adon Olam בחפצו כל אזי מלך שם כל יצ
Stop laughing.
Sorry.
חפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא
ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם השם עליו בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל Morris to another verse
הוא אחד ואין שני להמשילו להכבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה אדון עולם השם עליו כל יציר נברא Can't do, yes.
I'm going to remove your spotlight a second. We're going to get to gather review. Everyone can unmute yourselves. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Brilliant.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Thank you, bye-bye, David Mason.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye. Wonderful service. Right.
Everyone.